Social media has changed our lives immeasurably in recent years. We can be voyeurs, we can be anonymous, we can share our inner emotions, vent our anger, and demonstrate our prejudices of tens of thousands, millions of eyes watching and listening. But words hurt. And for the people of celebrity status, there is a price to pay, as it certainly did for Roseanne Barr. So what is it that motivates someone to do something like that without realizing the potential repercussions? I'm delighted to be joined now by Robi Ludwig, who is a prominent psychotherapist here in New York. Robi, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Roseanne says that it was all prompted by her taking an Ambien pill before she went to bed. Is there justification
well, first of all,
for that?
that's also not an apology, right? That's blaming. So she's not showing a lot of insight. Certainly there are side effects for any medication. Ambien can make you more aggressive, and certainly she's a very aggressive person. And there are some medications that can disinhibit you. So if you're inclined to say something, you might say it and not hold back. So is it possible it was a contributing factor? Maybe, but did it cause her to say what she said? No. I mean, we cannot claim that Ambien caused her to say racist things. That's just not the way it works.
Lower your inhibitions.
It can lower so that if you're having a thought, right? We all have thoughts in our head that we keep in our head because they should stay there, right? And in order to function in society, we have to edit out things, right? We all have judgments and assessments that might be right or wrong. But in order to have successful human interaction, we have to decide, what can we say? What can't we say? We can't say everything that comes into our head. We'd have no relationships at all with anybody. Okay, and so if you're taking certain medications, your judgment about what you say and what you shouldn't say might be altered.
Okay, so get away from the medication for a moment. What else is it that would motivate someone? She was risen to such star status, coming back with 18 million viewers, and the show was doing so well. It was probably the top sitcom on the air.
I know.
Motivate someone to do that, cost all these jobs.
You know, I don't think she was thinking. So I don't think she was thinking about cause and effect. Roseanne is probably somebody who just sees herself as a comedian, and comedians can say things that others can't because it's under the guise of it's funny, it's a joke. So she probably thought she could say anything, like a stand-up comedy act, but it's via Twitter, so it's a different medium, and you can't say what maybe you could say during a stand-up on Twitter. The other piece is it seems very self-destructive to me, and very destructive.
Is there something about people? Is there a self-destruct mechanism we have? Take a look at other comedians and statements. Take a look at Samantha Bee making a statement, also making headlines right now. And you take a look at what Kathy Griffin holding the head of. And what about Bill Cosby?
Right.
So is there something about comedians that have a destructive side of them?
Well, I don't know if it's just comedians. I think all human beings struggle with doing things that are constructive and then getting in our own way, right? And that's what therapy is for a lot of people. How can I get out of my own way? So I think for some people, they create greatness and then they bring themselves down because there's something about being great or being successful that's uncomfortable. I don't know if that's a piece of it for her. I think she just was not thinking. She thought she could get away with it. She's an angry, paranoid woman. She's talked about having mental health issues. So perhaps she sees things in a very distorted way. And we live in a different world. So when Roseanne first became popular, she could maybe get away with these things a little easier. We didn't live in a world where there was instant crowdsourcing, where people would immediately respond and companies would listen. You had to take your time, you had to write a letter, you had to figure out who to write to. Not everybody wanted to do that.
But it's a different time. I mean, it's
a different time.
It's not the first time she has spoken out improperly, inappropriately. She called, what was it? She called Israel a Nazi state. She said Hillary Clinton was an anti-Semite, and on and on and on. She did that thing while she was singing the national anthem and then spit.
It's so interesting. As you're talking, I'm thinking about patients who decompensate. And one of the hallmarks of a patient who decompensates is they say all of these outrageous, crazy things that are paranoid, that are inaccurate, that kind of raise a red flag for families and close colleagues to say, hey, something's not right with this person. But maybe Roseanne was able to walk that fine line because she is a comedian and people put it in that joke category. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't mean that you're not hurting people's feelings. But I think Roseanne kind of falls back on this notion that she's speaking a truth that people will support her for. And I don't think that she wanted to hurt the people she worked with. And I think that came as a huge shock, that the show would be canceled and other people she cared about would be hurt.
Never would have thought that would have happened. But let's talk about the culture right now.
Yeah.
Social media.
Right.
We have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have Twitter. And here we hear so often that people are sending their tweets
Right.
and saying things that really they shouldn't say. Sometimes people out there saying it anonymously.
Yes.
They use the privacy of their own computer screen.
Or they fall into the illusion when they're sitting behind their computer or posting something that you're not really saying it to a world stage. So that is what has changed. And we discussed this over the phone, that everybody is a tweet away from getting fired. It doesn't matter how rich you are. It doesn't matter how successful you are. If you say the wrong thing, it basically has the ability to get communicated around the world. And that's the difference, that all of us now have a world stage platform in social media. So you have to really be thoughtful about anything that you say can and will be held against you and will be seen by everybody.
And as per example, President Trump.
Right, especially if it's controversial.
82 million followers, unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, but you could reach people and remain anonymous, but if you happen to be someone who's a big star like
Right.
Roseanne Barr or the president, it's out there. And
yeah, and so this is what we teach our kids. Be very careful what you post. It can get in the way of who hires you, what colleges you get into. So we're very good at teaching children that. And then there are some people that just lose sight of the negative consequences or impact that can happen as a result of sharing things that maybe you should just be sharing with your private family members.
But we are seeing a cultural shift as a result of social media.
And the shift is, so we believe in our First Amendment rights, where we're entitled to our beliefs and we can share whatever we want, wherever we want, right? Including social media.
Without recognizing repercussions.
But there are repercussions. So now there are consequences. And so that alters the conversation a bit, where people now know, maybe I can't say certain things because I'll get fired or I'll be disliked by a certain group of people. And so we've got into this in an odd way. There's like politically correct speak, and then there's these like crazy unedited speak. And we see what happens to the people that just post anything that comes to mind, especially if it's provocative or if somebody is a provocateur. Mm-hmm. And there's a ripple effect, in part because what is being politically correct about? It's saying in a way, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, which is hard to do. You know that as an on-air person. I know that as a person who speaks to people on air. You know, we try not to make any missteps and things can happen.
We have to watch our words.
We have to watch it because we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, especially if we don't mean to. But then there's the other side of people saying, well, I just have a burning desire to state my truth.
Robi Ludwig, always appreciate your insight.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.